selected songs of Geetanjali by Rabindranath Tagore. Before I discuss those songs, let me give you a brief introduction of Geetanjali. Geetanjali is a collection of poems by Rabindranath Tagore. Tagore, who received Nobel Prize for Literature, and we really feel proud of him. The original Bengali collection had 157 poems, and it was published in the year 1910. The English Geetanjali, which was called Song Offerings by Tagore himself, is a collection of 103 poems. Tagore himself translated them into English, and they were first published in 1912. The most important part of this was that the introduction of these poems was written by a great British poet, W.B. Yeats. Tagore received a Nobel Prize for Literature in the year 1913 for this great work. When we read the songs of Geetanjali, we find that the central theme in these lyrics, in these songs, is devotion. And there is a lyric, there is a song number 15. In that particular song, there is a line which I think epitomizes, summarizes the basic theme of Geetanjali. The line is, I am here to sing the song. I am here to sing the songs. I, the poet, the God. So there are the two characters, individual soul and the supreme soul, the poet and God. Geetanjali shows yearning of the individual soul to establish union with the supreme soul. The songs of Geetanjali depict the deep longing of the finite for the infinite. Or if I use the terminology of Ralph Waldo Emerson, I may say that it is deep longing of the Atman for Brahman. All the lyrics of Geetanjali are basically hymns. They are religious songs. They are in the form of prayers. They are the devotional songs. They have mantric qualities. They are like shlokas actually. So, in Geetanjali, if we recite the lyrics of Geetanjali, we are basically reciting the mantras. Because all the lyrics are hymns and they are sung in the devotion to God. And that is why we say that theme of mysticism is there in Geetanjali. In Geetanjali, love is the principal subject. Although some poems depict the internal conflict between spiritual longings and earthly desires, but love is at the very basis of Geetanjali. It focuses on the all-pervading presence of God. And we can call it pantheism, that God is present behind all objects of nature. Geetanjali depicts Tagore's spiritual journey towards the Supreme Being. as I have just told you, that it is a collection of devotional songs in which he offers his prayer to God. When we say Geetanjali, it is Geet plus Anjali, that is song offering, garland of songs. So all the lyrics of Geetanjali are in the form of offering to God, and that is why they are called song offering. Geet Anjali. It appeals to the readers with its oceanic depth, expressed in simplicity, optimism, and spiritual affirmation, richness and variety, humanization of divine, use of domestic images and symbols, and mythopoeic elements. What is important here is that the abstract idea of union between individual soul and supreme soul is explained to us in a very simple manner. And this is actually the beauty of Tagore, that he is concretizing the abstract objects. Now, Geetanjali has echoes of Hindu Vaishnavite poetry. It is in the Vaishnava tradition, that Vaishnavite poetry which depicts the love of Radha for Lord Krishna. And also, glimpses of Christian religious feeling for God as Father and Redeemer. When you read the lyrics of Geetanjali, you will find out this. The image of God as a bridegroom and lover is common to the New Testament and in Vaishnava tradition. Now, when Tagore mentioned his admiration for Vaishnava poetry in an essay published in 1912, undoubtedly he had in mind the Geet Govind, a long poem written in 12th century by the Bengali poet Sri Jayadeva. The Geet Govind shows God Vishnu in his incarnation as Krishna in passionate pursuit of cowgirl Radha. Since Vaishnavism, or the worship of this very human god, was especially popular in Bengal, Bengali poets often wrote about Krishna's love for Radha. Tagore visualizes God as the father or lover. This humanization of the divine becomes the focal point of his songs. In these songs, God exists amongst the simple, poor, and humble. And you'll find out that there is a song in Geetanjali where Tagore is talking about God who is found in the image of common people. The core of Geetanjali is depiction of the spiritual voyage of the poet towards God. Now, these prose poems, or these lyrics are basically the prose poems. They are in the form of his tete-a-tetes, that is personal conversation, to God. They are in the form of tete-a-tetes to God. The most frequently used pronouns in these songs are thou, thy, I, me, and my. I told you in the beginning that the basic theme of the poem is contained in song number 15, where Tagore says, I am here to sing thee songs. So I is a character, thee is a character. So in these lyrics, these pronouns are very prominent: thou, thy, I, me, and my. And by using these words, Tagore wants to say that for the spiritual communion, only two persons are there. One is individual soul, other is the supreme soul, and there should not be the intervention of any outsider. For example, in lyric number 1, he says, "Thou hast made me endless, such is thy pleasure." And in lyric number 2, he says, "I look to thy face and tears come to my eyes." You'll find out that I, thou, thy, thee, these are the pronouns which are used. And these personal pronouns aim at establishing a kind of individual association to the divine being. One other important point which you'll find out is that most of the sentence structures are in the form of the active voice. That is, we have subject, verb, and object. SVO. So they are in the form of active voice. So this structure is actually in accordance with the use of the personal pronouns like thou and he. And generally you'll find out that thou and he are basically the subjects of those sentences. And the interpretation of these structures could be that he establishes the supremacy of God through these structures. The poet enforces his belief that God is the creator and the main actor of this universe. Now, in the modern days of nihilism and despair, especially this is the time of the COVID-19 pandemic, and people are suffering from disappointment, despair, and a different kind of feeling is there with the people because of this global pandemic. The poems of Geetanjali, they offer a kind of faith and optimism. This optimism has its root in the belief in an all-pervading, omnipotent spirit, that there is a spirit which will ultimately save us from this kind of calamity. Man can get rid of all kinds of despair and suffering if he sacrifices himself to God. And that is why in the beginning I told you that the lyrics of Geetanjali had the mantric quality, and the critic, he said that to read one line of Tagore is to forget all the troubles of the world. W. A. Yeats, who wrote introduction to the English translation of Geetanjali, he said, I would like to quote him. He said, "I have carried the manuscript of these translations with me for days, reading it in railway trains or on the tops of omnibuses and in restaurants. And I have often had to close it lest some stranger would see how much it moved me." So he was very much moved by the songs of Geetanjali. Geetanjali has such, moving power. So this was in brief the introduction of Geetanjali, and I would like to discuss a few lyrics with you, the songs which are prescribed in your course. So I think that way you can better understand it. So let us now come to the first lyric, which is there in your course, and this is the opening lyric. "Thou hast made me endless." So this is the lyric. "Thou hast made me endless." So now look at this lyric. Thou, again, as I have just told you that in Geetanjali we have the presence of personal pronouns like thou, thy, thee, I. So you have now thou, you have, thy. So these are the thou. These are the words actually which are used by, because there is nobody else except me, that is the poet, and God, individual soul and the supreme soul. Now this lyric depicts the magnanimity of God, generosity of God. So this lyric is in the form of thankfulness, and in this lyric, individual soul is expressing gratitude to God for whatever God has given to it. Speaker in this poem is the individual soul. Now, thou hast made me endless, eternal. So the soul says that you have made me eternal, you have made me everlasting. Such is thy pleasure. Pleasure, look at the word pleasure. Pleasure means, you can say, the translation of the Bengali word is Leela. So the translation is divine play. It is your divine play, it is your Leela. We generally say Bhagavad Leela. You have made me eternal. That is your Leela. That is your Bhagavad Leela. And you find out the immortality of soul in Bhagavad Gita. So Tagore was also very much influenced by the Bhagavad Gita. And in Bhagavad Gita we have the shlok like Yah enam veti hantaram ya chaine manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. And you have already studied the poem Brahma by Ralph Waldo Emerson, which is almost the translation of this extract from Bhagavad Gita. If the red slayer thinks he slays, or if the slain thinks he is slain. So then this next line is, this frail vessel thou emptiest again and again, and fillest it ever with fresh life. Here Tagore is talking about the transmigration of the soul. Here we have the Hindu doctrine of the transmigration of the soul. It is written in the Bhagavad Gita, the vasanse jirnani yatha vihaya. Just as a man leaves the old clothes and wears the new clothes, similarly, soul leaves the old body and enters into the new body. And that is explained with the help of this frail vessel thou emptiest again and again, and fillest it ever with fresh life. Body is just like the frail vessel, and it is made empty again and again, and it is filled with fresh life. Transmigration of the soul. Soul is shifting the body, changing the body. Now the transmigration of the soul, this abstract idea, is explained to us with the help of the concrete image of the frail vessel. As I told you, the Tagore is a master of concretizing the abstract objects. Now this little flute of reed thou hast carried over hills and dales, and hath breathed through its melodies eternally new. I am like a flute of reed, and you are a flute player. You are playing on the flute, and you are producing melodies of different kinds. God, an immortal touch of thy hands, when you touch me, my little heart loses its limits in joy. My heart loses its limits and gives birth to utterance ineffable. Utterance ineffable means inexpressible joy. When you touched me, my delight, my joy knew no bounds. I cannot express it. Gives birth to utterance ineffable, inexpressible joy. That was inexpressible joy when you touched me. thy infinite gifts come to me only on these very small hands of mine. Your gifts are infinite and my hands are very small. Ages pass and still thou pourest, and still there is room to fill. Time is passing, ages pass, and you keep on pouring, you keep on giving, and still there is room to fill. My condition is just like a small child who receives so many gifts on his birthday and not able to hold them properly in his hands. Look at God's generosity. Look at God's kind-heartedness. Look at God's magnanimity, that He's pouring His blessings to us. So the entire in the entire lyric, individual, so the soul is expressing thankfulness to God for whatever God has given to it. So this is all about song number 1, the opening lyric of Geetanjali. So let us now discuss song number 11 from Geetanjali. A beautiful lyric, and here we find out that Tagore criticizes, castigates idolatry and blind worship. I told you in the beginning that he's a mystic, but he's a mystic with a difference. What happens that, how can this spiritual union be established? The entire Geetanjali is based on the spiritual journey of the poet to establish union with God. Now, how can this union be established? In this lyric, he says that leave this chanting and singing and telling of beads. Chanting, we generally chant mantras, we sing the songs, and we count the beads of the rosary. Tagore says that leave this chanting of the mantras, singing of the religious songs, and counting the beads of the rosary. Whom do you worship in this lonely, dark corner of a temple with doors all shut? Whom are you worshipping? Doors are all shut. You are sitting lonely in the dark corner of a temple, and doors are all shut. Whom are you worshipping? Open thine eyes, just open your eyes, and see thy God is not before thee. You'll find out that God is not before you. You'll find out how Tagore is castigating, blind worship and idolatry. He said, leave this chanting and singing and, telling of beads. You are worshipping someone sitting in a dark corner of a temple and doors all shut. And when you open your eyes, you'll find out God is not there. If God is not there in the temple, then where is the God? So He is there where the tiller is tilling the hard ground. Now look at this and recall the lines of Wordsworth, who said, humble and rustic life is chosen. How romantic description is this? The image of God is in the image of a tiller, in the image of a path maker. He says God is there where the tiller is tilling the hard ground and where the path maker is breaking stones. God is there in the image of a tiller, in the image of a stone breaker, in the image of a path maker. He's there with them in sun and in shower, in all kind of seasons, maybe the summer or rainy season. And his garment is covered with dust. He is not so much, neat and clean because he is there with these common people. His garment is also covered with dust. What should you do then? Put off, remove thy holy mantle garment. You just remove this holy garment, showing that you are very pious, you are very neat and clean, you are far away from these common people. And even like him, come on the dusty soil. You come on the dusty soil, and then you will find out God. God is not there in the temple. You are reciting the mantras, you are chanting the mantras, sitting in the corner of the temple with doors all shut. Go outside. Find out God in the image of a tiller, in the image of a path maker. He's there with these common people. Now then, a very significant a word which Tagore uses here is deliverance. Deliverance, exemption from worldly responsibilities. Deliverance. Where is this deliverance to be found? You think that you can escape yourself from worldly affairs. Where is this deliverance to be found? Can you find this deliverance anywhere? And even our master is not able to relieve himself from this kind of these kind of ties. How can you? Our master himself had joyfully taken upon the bonds of creation. God is busy in the process of creation. He is bound with us all. When he is not exempt, how can you? So if you want to see God, if you want to establish union, go and meet the common people. And when you meet the common people, I think you are meeting God, because God is in the form of these common people. So how romantic image is this? In 19th century poetry, you find out in England how Wordsworth, the poets like Wordsworth, glorified and romanticized the common people. Now this is lyric number 25th. This is in continuation with that. This is the last, these are the last lines of the same lyric. Come out of thy meditations. You are in meditative posture. So come out of that. Leave aside these flowers and incense. You are using flowers and you are using incense, that is incensed sticks like agarbatti, dhoopbatti and all. Leave aside all these flowers and incensed sticks. Come out of your meditations. What harm is there if thy clothes become tattered and stained, soiled, dirty? There is no harm if your clothes become dirty, stained and soiled. Meet him and stand by him in toil and sweat of thy brow. Just like God, you meet these common people in all seasons, in say summer or rainy season. So if you want to establish union, you just meet the common people, because God is there in the image of those common people. Now coming to lyric number 25th. You see, individual soul is always longing to get union with the oversoul. The songs of the Geetanjali show the deep yearning, the deep longing, deep desire of the individual soul. What does soul say in this lyric? In the night of weariness, let me give myself to sleep without struggle, resting my trust upon thee. Now I have total faith in you. I have total trust in you. Let me not force my flagging spirit, tired, less strong. Let me not force my flagging spirit into a poor preparation for thy worship. My preparation is not poor. My preparation is very strong in your worship. It is thou who drawest the veil of night upon the tired eyes of the day to renew its sight in a fresher gladness of awake. I know that you will come and you will unveil the darkness, and I'll be able to see the light of knowledge, the awakening. Coming to another very important song, that is lyric number 35th, and this is most anthologized lyric of Tagore. This is prescribed at the lower level. I have seen that in most of the boards, this lyric is prescribed. This is the most anthologized lyric of Tagore, where the mind is without fear. Now, in this lyric, you'll find out how Tagore is imagining a utopian world. Tagore, what kind of country he is imagining, the last line he says, "Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake." So, what kind of countrymen does Tagore expect? So, this poem is actually in the form of utopia. That Tagore is expecting a utopia, a Disneyland, a land of dreams. He said, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Look at the beautiful use of alliteration. Head is held high. Where the mind is without fear, where countrymen will lead the fearless life, and they will lead the life of self-respect. Head is held high. When knowledge is free, when knowledge is not meant for elite class or for special class, knowledge is free to all. Knowledge is accessed by each and every person. Where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Where the world is not broken up into narrow domestic walls of caste, creed, and religion. Now, at this time when the world or the country is divided on the basis of many issues of caste, creed, religion, region, and so many things, Tagore had not expected all such kind of things. So where the world is not broken into the narrow domestic walls of caste, creed, and religion, where words come out from the depth of truth, where the people will speak the truth, and where tireless striving, continuous struggle, it stretches its arms towards perfection, where the continuous struggle of human beings will go and it will achieve perfection. Where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit. Again, beautiful use of alliteration. Dreary desert sand of dead habits. Stereotypical, hackneyed, old practices, where human beings will be guided not by old habits, not by stereotypical conservative habits, they'll be guided by stream of reason. So Tagore is giving a list of those qualities, those virtues which his countrymen should possess, like mind is without fear, head is held high, knowledge is free, the world has not been broken into fragments by narrow domestic walls, words come from the depth of truth, tireless striving will be there, that is continuous struggle will be there, and it will go for perfection, where they'll be guided by reason and they will not be guided by dreary desert sand of dead habits. Then he says, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action. What you generally find that people think but they don't act. People say but they don't execute. So I find my countrymen to think and act at the same time. They should make a policy, they should make a plan, and then they should execute. Thought and action should always be there. only thinking should not be there, or only action should not be there. Into that heaven of freedom, my father, let my country awake. I just want to see my countrymen living in that country, which is a kind of heaven of freedom where all these virtues are found. So this actually Tagore is talking about political emancipation. It's a lyric with a difference, because in most of the lyric you'll find out a kind of spiritual communion which Tagore is talking about. Now this is lyric number 45th, and in this lyric you'll find out that Tagore wants to say that individual soul is trying to establish union with divine, with God. So individual soul has a deep longing, yearning for establishing union. So kind of longing which individual soul has, the same kind of longing is also there from the side of God. So both individual soul and supreme soul are longing to establish a union. So it's a kind of longing from both the sides, and God is actually visiting the individual soul. Supreme soul is visiting the individual soul regularly. And in this lyric, individual soul says, have you not heard his silent steps? Gain alliteration. Have you not heard his silent steps? And this line is repeatedly used. He comes, ever comes. So individual soul is visited by the supreme soul. He comes, ever comes. Every moment and every age, every day and every night, and then again he comes, ever comes. Many a song I have sung in many a mood of mind, but all their notes have always proclaimed. I have sung many songs in the prayer of God. In variety of moods I have sung the songs, and in every song there was a proclamation that he comes, ever comes. In the fragrant age of sunny April, through the forest path, he comes, ever comes. In the rainy gloom of July nights, on the thundering chariot of clouds, he comes, ever comes. In sorrow after sorrow, it is his steps that press upon my heart, and it is the golden touch of his feet that makes my joy to shine. When he touches me, my joy knows no bounds. And you have already seen in the opening lyric where the individual says the utterance ineffable, inexpressible joy. When soul is touched by God, a kind of ecstatic pleasure it feels. What you find out in Geetanjali, and by some critics, Tagore is also criticized because sometimes it becomes monotonous and boring also, because there is one particular kind of theme, that is spiritual union, that is being continued from the very beginning till the end. In lyric after lyric, Tagore is using the same kind of theme by the use of different terms and different examples. So critics have sometimes criticized Tagore also for such kind of monotony and repetition. Now coming to the last lyric, that is 103 lyrics. And what happens generally when we perform puja at our home, we recite many mantras, many shlokas in the prayer of God, and then the last mantra is there which combines all the mantras, and it is there as a last offering to God. So Tagore has written many songs, and they are in the form of the offering, and this is a kind of last offering after combining all the offerings, and then with humble submission he is offering this song to God. He says, in one salutation to thee, let all my senses spread out and touch this world at thy feet. And look at the beautiful use of simile like. So in this lyric, we'll find out the beautiful use of simile. Like a rain cloud of July, hung low with its burden of unshed shards, Let all my mind bend down at thy door in one salutation to thee. So I want to give this offering, and I am with humble submission, just like a rain cloud of July with unshed shards. Just imagine a cloud of the month of July which is unshed. So I'm as humble as that rain cloud, and I'm submitting myself before you. Let all my songs gather together the diverse strains into a single current. I have written different kind of songs. They are in diverse strains. I just want to make a single current, and I just want to offer these songs to you. Like a flock of homesick cranes, flying night and day back to their mountain nests. I am just like, flock of homesick cranes. So cranes leave their homes in the morning, and then they come back to their homes in the night, at the mountain, nests. So I am a kind of sojourner, temporary sojourner on this earth. My time is now over, and my eternal home is heaven. So I just want to go back to that place. So this is a kind of my humble submission, my offering to you. Accept my prayer, and I just want to go back to my eternal home. So in the last lyric, this combined all the lyrics, all the songs, and he has offered them to God with humble submission. Thank you very much.